So just to give a little bit more context on who we have up here. Arlen Hamilton is the founder and managing partner of Backstage Capital. You invest in underrepresented, underestimated, you like to say, yes, founders. Peggy Johnson is EVP of Business Development at Microsoft, and as part of your job, you also oversee M12, corporate venture fund at Microsoft. So, two of you have very different backgrounds. How did you all meet?
You didn't sleep in an airport?
No, I didn't. I just read that.
Have you ever slept at an airport, Peggy?
I have not.
I don't recommend it.
Yeah, tell us about that.
But if you're going to do it, the Delta terminal
I don't even like camping, so being homeless wasn't that much fun either.
Delta terminal is the best, though, right?
Sure.
Yeah. No. All right. So seriously, how did you connect initially?
I think Satya Nadella, our CEO, reached out to Arlen for an event we hold on our campus every year. It's like a hackathon. Mm-hmm. And it was for a conversation. It was called Courageous Conversations. And it was about some of the topics we're going to talk about today. And she knocked it out of the park. Audience loved her. And then we wanted to
all
continue.
Downhill from here.
we wanted to continue working with Backstage Capital, and we support Backstage Capital now. We announced in September with sponsorship, with tech resources, and with mentoring, also with Black and Brown founders. So it's been a great partnership.
Yeah, it's been really amazing to work with Microsoft because I'm pretty outspoken and pretty straightforward, and we really love the action that they've taken. Mm-hmm. You know, they're not just talking online. They're not just getting a byline somewhere and patting themselves in the back. They're showing up and really working with our founders and working with our team to build out a lot of the infrastructure with us.
So in the actual nuts and bolts of the partnership, how many companies are you investing in? Are you sort of helping them curate?
So we, as Backstage Capital, if you're not familiar with it, we've invested in 100 companies since 2015, led by women, people of color, and LGBT founders. Started from scratch. And when we hit our first 100, we decided to launch an accelerator. And so Microsoft is our launch partner for that accelerator. It's in 4 cities: Los Angeles, Detroit, Philadelphia, and London. It will start in March. And Microsoft provides millions of dollars worth of technical support and their infrastructure too, and then became a customer of ours as well.
Okay, great. Well, I want to hear from both of you a little bit more about 2 things, and one is what companies can do to increase the representation of underestimated founders, underrepresented founders, and the other thing is on a more individual level. You know, what are the conversations that we need to be having? What are some of the tough conversations? And how do you promote and encourage those conversations in the workplace as well? So wherever you'd like to start.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, can I just go off a little bit and say, shout out to everyone in this room who is an introvert and spoke earlier.
How many of you were nervous before the microphone got
to you? Yes, and most of you are not telling the truth right now. And shout out to that, because I watched every single one. It was really wonderful to watch, and I feel very honored to be among this crowd. And that's a big part of it. The whole time I was watching that introduction, I was just thinking, it was replaying in my head over and over again were people like 3-4 years ago saying, where are the women? Where are the women in tech? And like really earnestly saying this to me. And I mean, this room is pretty amazing. But yeah, I think it's like everyone here is in this kind of strange position at their jobs because they have gotten themselves where they are and they have influence where they can bring others with them, but they also, in a lot of cases, have to kind of carry that torch and bear that for so many other people, and it's difficult. I don't think there's like I don't have a straightforward answer when it comes to how to get people to take us seriously. Mm-hmm. I think that everyone who's gotten themselves to this point, though, is doing it. Is like you're making what you've done just in being in this room and getting yourselves to where you are. You don't even know it, but the people that come after you would have benefited from that. Mm-hmm. And sometimes that just has to be enough, just to think that by the sacrifices you've made and the challenges that you faced and that you continue to face, you've laid the foundation for something better for someone else.
How much of it is also modeling? I mean, you kind of touching on this, but less than 10% of VC dollars go to women, people of color. Women of color receive just, is it 0.2%?
It's 0.2%, yeah. We're a blip on the radar.
Yeah, and LGBT founders. So how much of this is modeling? I mean, people see you. You do not fit the mold of the white male VC in Silicon Valley.
I don't?
In case nobody, you guys didn't notice maybe, but do you think that, what kind of impact does that have? What kind of reactions do you have?
Well, I can tell. Well, the reactions I have are pretty cool. People definitely pitch me a lot more. That people find me at the airport, and I get into cars.
Still?
This time I'm going to first class. Thank you very much. But no, the reactions.
By the way, sorry to interrupt you, but
Yes.
I kind of feel like you need to give a little bit more context.
Oh, I'd love to.
Arlen actually lived in SFO for a while.
Yeah.
There.
I joke about it now, but I did live at the airport while I was while I was building the fund, and it truly was a fund that started from scratch. I raised about $5 million, put that into 100 companies over the past 3 years, and then we've launched a new fund to put $1 million at a time into companies led by Black women. And so it was. I'm not very far removed from that time, but things have changed. I don't know if you know this, but I know we're at Fortune, but I was on the cover of Fast Company. It's cool, right? It's cool to say that. It's cool to say no one's gonna push your button and I'm gonna disappear.
It's a special thing on the Aeron chair.
Yeah, just like oh, there she goes. So that's that context. Yeah.
Okay, and reaction. Back to
reactions.
The
yeah. I think it's just a testament, to like the appetite and the fact that people do not see themselves very often in that. Yes, people come up to me and I mean, I've actually had like grown white men crying in my presence when they meet, and that's something else because I get a lot of people who are just like, yeah, you're doing it and you inspire me to do something, I'm gonna go out and do something, and I love that. And I think that more and more this year, I've had, it's been, there's been a lot of, it's like good and bad, right? There's been a lot of bad, but the good has been, and from these guys, they understand that like they are going to be better off with diversity, and it's not just this thing we can put in the corner and call it an HR problem. It's actually like they're starting to understand it more themselves. So I think being on the cover of a magazine, in a business magazine, and I was the first Black woman.
Other business magazine.
That other one, we're not going to talk about. Fast Company, y'all. We'll pick it up. The other magazine, but just honestly, being on the cover of that as the first Black woman who's not a celebrity, people, I was looking for that 4 years ago. I was searching for that, and people have really seen themselves in that, and it's really beautiful. And I really do think that I'm representing us all. So that's why I can kind of joke about it, because it doesn't seem like it's for me.
Peggy, any insight into, you mentioned that your CEO, Satya Nadella, introduced the two of you. Obviously, this has been kind of a focus for him. You need that from the top. What is it about him that made him, and he's had his oopses as well in public speaking in front of women, but what is it about him that has made this a priority, and how do you get that if your CEO does not see that quite yet?
Well, I think the great thing about Satya is he put a mission statement in front of us to empower every person and organization on the planet to achieve more. And we try to live that every day at the company. And that includes women entrepreneurs too, right? I mean, and so everything ladders up to that. And it was a whole cultural change since Satya started that we've, as a company, have embraced. And just going back to something that you said, Arlen, about being introverted, I'm a bit introverted, and coming up through engineering, oftentimes I thought, I just have to leave this profession because I just don't think it's for me. It just wasn't very welcoming. And eventually I worked through that. But, when we looked at starting M12, our corporate venture fund at Microsoft, we thought, we're starting this from scratch, and we can actually, we can take our mission statement and look through that lens as we start this. And so one of the things that we did is we wanted to build a diverse team. And the reason is, clearly, when we looked at a lot of the VCs, the teams aren't very diverse. Mm-hmm. And then we would always say, yeah, there's not that many women founders coming through. And I just felt like, both were somehow related. And we found that when we built a diverse team, it just helps when you come in to pitch to see someone like you on the other side of the table. It can be a daunting process, that whole pitch thing, which is a whole nother conversation. I think we should change that Shark Tankness about it. Yeah. It's tough for a lot of people. It's tough for introverts. So, we built a very diverse team, and then we thought, okay, now the women founders will come. And we struggled. And people said, oh, you're in enterprise software. There's no women founders in enterprise software. And our traditional networks weren't bringing the founders in. And the M12 teams had some success with an AI competition about a year ago. And they said, why don't we do the same thing for female founders? And they launched this competition. We didn't really know what the response would be, because we are an enterprise software company. We got hundreds and hundreds of applications in from something like 30 countries around the world. It's just been amazing. They're out there. Now we have these contacts with these women, and we have to share some names, actually, because now we see them. They're there. They've come in the funnel. And I think it's super important that we keep them in and we help them on their journey. We actually have the two winners are here today. Julie from Mental Canvas and Greta from Acerta are here today. And our two winners are now part of our portfolio. Yeah, let's give them a round of applause, because they did a great job. We're just thrilled that they're now on our radar. We have these lists of names, and we'll keep cultivating them.
And I think there's something to be said about, like, if you've been paying attention to the news, well, some of the news, Microsoft is doing really well right now. and it's been in the last few years that the rise has happened, and it's been at the same time that the diversity talk has happened and the action has happened. I mean, if it's not a case study, I don't know what is. It's the same. It's all correlated. It's not just talk.
I think, you mentioned earlier just seeing the women in this room and how this whole pipeline excuse just needs to end, to die a fast death. But do you see it though as is it more of a network issue? And do you network in the Valley and Southern California and up north and wherever else and other hubs? Do you see value in you going to network and in bringing your network?
Yeah, I think that we're making up for a lot of lost time, and we meaning women and people of color and women of color. It's a lot of different intersections, but the way that I look at it, what we're doing at Backstage is kind of creating a new sorority, creating a new fraternity that wasn't there for us. Or you can look at it like a new golf club, a golf club course or something, because it wasn't there before, so we're trying to help build it. And I do think, I think a lot of times people mistake what I say as like some sort of like man-hating or white people hating, which is weird because I'm engaged to a white woman. That would be weird if I didn't like her.
Must be tough that you hate
her. Soups. But I do think that it is absolutely, just as much as they need us, I think we need them. And I think that, my idealistic mind takes me to a place where everybody is working together, where the room looks, really, really diverse. And I definitely attempt to network. And I think that's what we're doing. It's like what I call it? I call it augmented privilege that I've created for myself. So I had none. I had some, everybody has some, but I had very little, especially in this world. And over time, I just sort of siphoned and mined it. And now I have an augmented privilege, and I think that Backstage is sharing that augmented privilege, and I think we all can. Just like, we hear this all the time about sharing your privilege. Everybody in the room has privilege of some sort. Everybody who's sitting in these wonderful chairs has a privilege that they have, great posture now and they feel good. but everybody, you know, it has privilege, and we can all share that. And if we all work together, then yeah, I mean, things can definitely change for the better. And then also, you know, like a lot of days are just going to suck because this is hard. That too.
Slow moving. I have a bunch more questions for you guys, but I also want to make sure to get any audience questions in. Raise your hand, please, if you would like to ask Arlen and Peggy a question, comment. All you introverts. I think we've got a question over here. We have a mic coming to you, and if you could just introduce yourself.
Can you pull it away from her like the Trump thing for me? I just want to see that. Okay, cool.
Hi, Jade Floyd with the Face Foundation. I would love to know from both of you about a moment of failure in your life and how you failed forward.
Wow.
Moment of failure. Failure. So, So I had a music magazine in my 20s. I'm 38. Had a music magazine in my 20s, and definitely went through some ups and downs there. Built it up. I then had to get in touch with many hundreds and hundreds or thousands of subscribers and let them know that they were not going to be receiving their latest issue because we were bankrupt essentially, and it was one of the toughest times in my whole life, and I ended up in the hospital on suicide watch. It was not good. It was really, really bad. And it felt like my whole world was ending because I had spent the previous 5 years building it up, and same thing with the fund, making something out of nothing and something that people really loved, and I just couldn't make it work. And thankfully, I cared about enough in life for it not to have happened, you know. And it took a while, but I got back up and just, you know, I built Backstage Capital.
Good for you. I think mine was when I just wasn't being my authentic self. I mean, I came up through engineering and didn't see very many people who looked like me in the room, and I loved engineering. And every year at my performance review, it was the same thing. You don't speak up enough, we don't hear from you enough, you need to be more opinionated. I even was told that this was a boys' club, I needed to join that.
Oh,
whoa.
That sounds horrible.
It was hard. It was hard. That's why I wanted to just leave. But I was told, you know, you should just be more like the guys. And so I would go in to meetings and try and be more aggressive and assertive, you know, hit my hand on the table, do all that kind of stuff. It was horrible. I was not a very good guy. And finally, you know, I looked at that performance review and I was like, these leadership attributes, I'm never going to be that. You know, they were those things, being more assertive and everything. And I thought, I'm collaborative, I build good teams. You know, those things weren't on the list. And I pointed that out to my boss, fully expecting him to say, you know, well, be more like this list here. This is the one we're gonna rate you on. And he said, I'm gonna go fix that. And he worked with our HR department, he fixed it. This was years ago. And yeah, he was great. He was, I think about him every day. Oh no, thank you. He was, you know, he was a gay man, and I feel like he knew what it was like to feel alone and a little bit isolated. And he went and fought for me, and I appreciate that every day. And just when that happened, and I just could be my authentic self again, that's when my career took off. Then I was just like, oh, I'm just being me. And that's why introverts, you should just be you. Don't try and be anything you're not, right?
I agree.
So one last quick question for you guys, and this is kind of a big one, but which I don't think you can answer quickly, but just try. Great. So, okay, you're the It's About Damn Time fund, which is focused on Black women founders, right? Yeah. It's a $36 million fund. If you haven't, it's a good name for a fund. It's catchy. Peggy, you guys are also, I don't know exactly the size of you know, how much money you're giving to female investors and minority, founders right now, but when you look at a fund like SoftBank's Vision Fund, and we're talking $100 billion here, and SoftBank just now hired its first female investing partner. Yeah. You know, how do you think about, how are you going to move in 50 seconds or less, how do you really move the needle You know, you're looking at, is this a drop in the bucket, or is this, are they iterative
Well,
steps?
I don't look at, first of all, I don't look at SoftBank for any comparison, because even Andreesen Horowitz can't compare to
Fair
SoftBank.
point.
Let's not look at that. But when you think about Andreessen's,
there are
you know,
many multi-billion-dollar
they're investors
funds.
in us, and Mark is, and they're in the room, and I've said, you know, $40 or so million is a lot of, is groundbreaking, but it's also a drop in the bucket, and there's a lot of work that needs to be done. So one of my dreams is to have $500 million to $1 billion under management in several years from now, where we are not beholden to other funds to help our founders get to the next stage. It's just part of that, and I think that a lot of people are working kind of in the shadows and have much larger funds in the works.
I would just say use your networks. I mean, use your networks to introduce more women to VCs. A lot of times the VCs say, I can't see any women. I don't know where they are. Use your networks, tee them up, because the networks are so powerful. And use your networks to encourage women to start their own companies as well. I know some of you in here probably have a few ideas. Come see Arlen and I.
All right, and by the way, we would love for you guys to bring some of your portfolio company founders. I know you have some here in the room today, but please bring them next year.
I'll bring them all.
All right. Arlen, Peggy, thank you so much.
Thank you.